Okay, now I'm going to explain the process of charging the different batteries for the drone and its components and other accessories. Here's everything that you'll need when you begin the charging process. Starting on the left here, you have the power supply. You can see here, model name, it's a Reactor Pro 350 watt, 23 amp power supply from Turnigy. Going along with that, there is the Turnigy Reactor Quad Core. What's interesting about this charger is that each of these sections right here with sunscreen and fan and controls, these are all separate circuits. So each one has its own settings and they're completely independent of each other. In order to plug this into wall power, you will need a power supply cable. This is standard for desktop power supplies. You see the connector there. I already have one connected to wall power here. So when I go through the process, I'll just plug it in to the port on the back of the power supply. Right there. Next up, you'll need the charging leads for any battery that you're connecting. In this case, it'll be an XT90 connector. You can see there. And an XT60 connector. XT60 is a little bit smaller than XT90. These will have these bullet connectors on the ends. These can be very dangerous, and I'll go through why here in just a moment as we go through the charging process. Here is an aluminum pie pan. This is just an example of a surface that you should put batteries on. If you plug them in incorrectly, it can cause a chemical fire, and it's best to put these on a non-flammable surface. Anything metal will usually do. And over here we have the batteries. This one right here, it is a Trinity Multi-Star 8,000 milliamp 4-cell battery at 14.8 volts. This is the battery for the drone itself. You can see here the charging limit. I'll explain that in just a moment. And here is the battery for the monitor. It's a Turnigy Nanotech. Let's see, it's a 1300 milliamp hour battery, and it's a 3-cell at 11.1 volts. Okay, so to begin the process, the first thing I'm going to do is connect this lead to the power supply. Now, this lead's also dangerous because these are just well, they're just leads. They can be swapped in polarity, which will cause the charger to explode and possibly the power supply as well. So when you connect them, and they actually just slide in here, you'll always want to make sure that the polarity is correct. And what comes out of here is it's not quite wall power. The power supply does bring it down a bit, but it is enough to definitely shock and definitely enough to cause a fire. So next, I'm going to connect the batteries. Now this is a crucial process here. When you connect the batteries, you're going to connect it to the ports on the side of the charger here. And you see there's a different set of ports for each circuit. If we look at the batteries, they have both your standard leads here, which your negative and your positive. They also have this other connector here, which I seem kind of unusual if you haven't worked with these types of batteries before. This is a balance port. This allows the extra current to go out, and it senses there's actually a circuit board inside of here that monitors the battery. This is actually going to report that current back out to the charger. Alright, so when you connect these, it's very important that you connect this lead to the charger first. If you connect this into the battery first, you can actually just short it out by putting these together like so. And if you do that, the battery is going to swell up, emit sparks, probably catch on fire, and then explode in a chemical fire because there's no load. So what you're definitely going to do first is connect this connector with everything powered off to the appropriate port. For instance, this port right here. Now that's done. Next up, go ahead and get your pie pan or whatever surface it is you're going to be putting them on out. It doesn't work quite as well for these batteries because the balance port lead's kind of short. If you notice, there's actually 5 different connectors there for the balance port. The reason for that is that the different number of cells determines how many pins there are on this connector. So for instance, the 4-cell here, other than the 3-cell, is going to have another pin. So for this particular battery, we're going to connect it to the balance port right in the middle there. Just like that. And the last thing you'll want to connect will be this right here. And we'll connect that last. Now we're going to go ahead and power up the charger and the power supply. So go ahead and plug the connector in here and turn it on. Hear that beep? That means that this is all turned on and functioning correctly. There's a light on the power supply to indicate that it's on. The fan will turn on the power supply when it is warm enough. Same is true for this. So now that we've connected this cable to the balance port, the display here is going to say LiPo balance charge and ask 1.0 amps, which is the charging rate, and main port. And it'll tell you there it's a 1.1 volt battery at 3 cells. So the next thing we're going to do, I can't really do this one-handed, so I'm going to put the camera down. Now I have the battery connector plugged in there. And you see that the main port message is gone. In order to start charging, you're going to hold down the start button there. And you can adjust the other settings here between the battery type. That'll bring you into a menu, and you can adjust all the different settings there. If we hold down here, it'll go through a battery check. This is a very important step to make sure it's actually healthy and can be charged. So now it's charging. You can see here what the voltage is. We can step through the different menus here. Now this is very important. This is the voltage for each cell. The way this works is it'll cycle through each cell and charge it up. Now, if there's a mismatch up to probably about 0.03 between any of these, it's very important that the battery should be disconnected immediately. Over time, the LiPos will lose the ability to charge up their cells completely. This can just happen because of age or because of the mistreatment of the batteries or any number of factors, really. So it's very important to monitor this and wait until they all get to the number indicated on the package here, and that should total up to the right voltage there. If you actually notice, I mentioned the charging limit on the flight batteries before. The flight batteries are a lot older and have been used pretty extensively. So if you look here, the charging limit here is only 4.06 volts. So when any cell reaches 4.06 volts, this one needs to be disconnected. And that'll change over time as well. So yeah, there's a couple different menus you can actually step through here, telling you the end voltage, capacity cutoff, the safety timer which will turn it off automatically, the temperature cutoff, the temperature of the charger itself, which is there, 23 degrees Celsius, the power voltage. That's everything there. Pressing the right button here will get you to that important menu showing you all the different voltages for the cells. And then when you're done, you hold down this button here on the far left. Actually, just press it, don't hold it. And then that finishes up. The same process applies for charging any of them. The way this is configured now, the two left circuits here are for the large green batteries, and this one right here is for the small blue ones. If you ever upgrade the batteries in the future, these settings will need to be changed to match the information on the label of the battery. And this circuit right here is currently out of service because of the shorts that I was mentioning earlier. So that's an introduction to charging the batteries for this. You may also be wondering about the charging of the battery for the remote. Now the remote's a little bit different. It charges more like products that we're more used to. The battery for it is encased inside here, but it doesn't actually come out. If you look on the left side or on the right side here, there's a DC barrel jack connector and an LED. If you look inside the case for the remote, you see there's a power supply. All you have to do is connect this power supply up to the remote. It'll blink while it's charging, go solid when it's done. So this is a lot simpler of a process. That's it. The charging. Just be very careful. Always make sure that the charging is not done unattended. Always be careful and make sure it's on a fireproof surface. Remember never to connect these barrel connectors after this is connected, because that can lead it to short out. So always do it in the order that I showed. Um, and that's about it. All right. Thank you.